At that time, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said this to him: Tell me, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, fully enlightened one, concerning the self-nature of Buddhahood, whereby I and other Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, understanding well what constitutes the self-nature of the Tathagata, may have both ourselves and others awakened in the truth. The Bhagavan said, Then Mahamati, ask me as you desire, according to which I will answer. Mahamati replied, Bhagavan, is the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one, to be considered unmade or made, an effect or a cause, predicated or predicating, an expression or that which is expressed, knowledge or that which is knowable? Is the Bhagavan different from all these expressions or not? The Bhagavan said, If the Tathagata Arhat, fully enlightened one, is to be described by those expressions, he is neither made nor unmade, neither an effect nor a cause. Why? Because the error of dualism would be here committed. If Mahamati, the Tathagata, is something made, he is impermanent. If he is impermanent, anything made would be a Tathagata, which is not desired by myself and other Tathagatas. If he is something unmade, his self-essence being attainment, all the preparations brought forward for the realization of Tathagatahood will be useless, like a hare's horns or a barren woman's child, because of their never having been made. That which is neither an effect nor a cause, Mahamati, is neither a being nor a non-being, and that which is neither a being nor a non-being is outside the four propositions. The four propositions, Mahamati, belong to worldly usage. That which is outside the four propositions is no more than a word, like a barren woman's child. Mahamati, a barren woman's child, is a mere word, and it is beyond the four propositions. As it is beyond them, the wise know it to not be subject to measurement. So is the meaning of all the terms concerning the Tathagata to be understood by the wise. It is told by me that all things are egoless. By this is meant, Mahamati, that they are devoid of selfhood, hence this egolessness. What I mean is that all things have each in its own individuality which does not belong to another, as in the case of a cow and a horse. For example, Mahamati, the being of a cow is not of horse nature, nor is the being of a horse of cow nature. This exemplifies the case of neither being nor non-being. Each of them is not without its own individuality. Each is such as it is by its own nature. In the same way, Mahamati, things are not each without its own individuality. They are such as they are, and thus the ignorant and simple-minded fail to understand the signification of egolessness by reason of their discrimination. Indeed, they are not free from discrimination. The same is to be known exactly about all things, being empty, unborn, and without self-nature. In the same way, the Tathagata and the Skandhas are neither not different nor different. If he is not different from the Skandhas, he is impermanent, as the Skandhas are something made. If they are different, they are two separate entities. The case is like a cow's horns. As they look alike, they are not different. As the one is short and the other long, they are different. This can be said of all things. Mahamati, the right horn of a cow, is thus different from her left horn. So is the left from the right. The one is longer or shorter than the other. The same can be said of varieties of colors. Thus the Tathagata and the Skandhas are neither different nor not different, the one from the other. In the same way, the Tathagata is neither different nor not different from emancipation. He can be described in terms of emancipation. If the Tathagata is different from emancipation, he partakes of the nature of a material object. If he does, he is impermanent. If he is not different, there will be no distinction in the attainments of the yogins, and Mahamati, a distinction is seen in the yogins. Therefore, the Tathagata is neither different nor not different from emancipation. In the same way, knowledge is neither different nor not different from that which is known. That Mahamati which is neither eternal nor not eternal, neither effect nor cause, neither effect producing nor not effect producing, neither knowledge nor that which is knowable, neither predicated nor predicating, neither the skandhas nor different from the skandhas, neither that which is expressed nor expression, nor bound up with oneness and otherness, with bothness and not bothness. This is something removed from all measurement. That which is removed from all measurement is not expressible in words. That which is not expressible is something unborn. That which is unborn is not subject to destruction. That which is not subject to destruction is like space, and Mahamati, space is neither an effect nor a cause. That which is neither an effect nor a cause is something unconditioned. That which is unconditioned goes beyond all idle reasonings. That which goes beyond all idle reasonings, that is the Tathagata Mahamati. This is the essence of perfect enlightenment. This is the self-nature of Buddhahood, which is removed from all senses and measurements. So it is said, that which is released from senses and measurements is neither an effect nor a cause. It has nothing to do with knowledge and that which is to be known. It is free from predicated and predicating. There is something which is nowhere to be seen by anybody as the skandhas, causation, and enlightenment. Of that which is nowhere to be seen by anybody, what description can we make? It is not something made nor unmade. It is neither an effect nor a cause. It is neither the skandhas nor not skandhas, nor is it other than the combination. There is something that is not to be seen by the discrimination of its being, nor is it to be known as non-existent. Such is the self-essence of all things. Accompanied by being there is non-being. Accompanied by non-being there is being. As thus non-being is not to be known by itself, being is not to be discriminated. Those who cling to mere words, not knowing what is meant by an ego-soul and egolessness, are immersed in dualism. They are corrupted and lead the ignorant to corruption. When they see my religion liberated from all detriments, they behold properly. They do not defile the world leaders. At that time again Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said this to the Bhagavan. Tell me, Bhagavan, tell me, Shugata, mention is made in the canonical books of the Bhagavans being subject neither to birth nor to destruction, and it is declared by you that this being subject neither to birth nor destruction is an epithet of the Tathagata. Now, Bhagavan, by this being subject neither to birth nor to destruction is a non-entity meant, and is it another name for the Tathagata as is declared by the Bhagavan? It is taught by the Bhagavan that all things are neither subject to being, all things are subject neither to birth nor to destruction, because they are not to be seen in the dualistic aspect of being and non-being. If all things are unborn, Bhagavan, no one can take hold of anything because nothing has ever been born. And if that is another name of something, what can this something be, Bhagavan? The Bhagavan said, Then, Mahamati, listen well and reflect well within yourself. I will tell you. Certainly, Bhagavan, said Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and gave ear to the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan said this to him, Mahamati, the Tathagata, is not a non-entity, nor is he to be conceived as all things are, as neither born nor disappearing, nor is he to look around for causation in order to appear before others, nor is he without signification. I refer to him as unborn. Nevertheless, Mahamati, there is another name for the Tathagata, when his Dharmakaya assumes a will body. This is what goes beyond the comprehension of all the philosophers, Sravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, and those bodhisattvas still abiding in the seventh stage. The unborn Mahamati is synonymous with the Tathagata. For instance, Mahamati, Indra is sometimes known as Sakra, sometimes as Purandara. Hand is Hasta, Kari, Pani. The body is Tanu, Deha, Sariya. The earth is Pithivi, Bhumi, Vasu, Dara. The sky is Ka, Akasa, Gagana. All these objects, each in its own way, are designated with many names, synonymously used and discriminated, but on account of these different names, different objects are not to be imagined, nor are they without their self-nature. The same, Mahamati, can be said of myself, for I come within the range of hearing of ignorant people, in this world of patience under many names, amounting to 100,000 times 3 asamkhayas, and they address me by these names, not knowing that they are all other names of the Tathagata. Of these, Mahamati, some recognize me as the Tathagata, some as the self-existent one, some as leader, as Vinayaka, remover, as Parnayaka, guide, as Buddha, as Rishi, ascetic, as Bull King, as Brahma, as Vishnu, as Isvara, as original source, Pradhana, as Kapila, as Bhutanta, end of reality, as Arishta, as Nimana, as Soma, moon, as the sun, as Rama, as Vyasa, as Sukha, as Indra, as Balin, as Varuna, as is known to some, while others recognize me as one who is never born and never passes away, as emptiness, as suchness, as truth, as reality, as limit of reality, as the Dharmadhatu, as nirvana, as the eternal, as sameness, as non-duality, as the undying, as the formless, as causation, as the doctrine of Buddha cause, as emancipation, as the truth of the past, as the all-knower, as the victor, as the will-made mind. Mahamati, thus in full possession of 100,000 times, 3 asamkhayas of appellations, neither more nor less, in this world and in other worlds I am known to the peoples like the moon in water, which is neither in it nor out of it. But this is not understood by the ignorant who have fallen into the dualistic conception of continuity. Though they honor, praise, esteem, and revere me, they do not understand well the meaning of words and definitions. They do not distinguish ideas. They do not have their own truth, and clinging to the words of the canonical books, they imagine that not being subject to birth and destruction means a non-entity, and fail to see that it is one of the many names of the Tathagata, as in the case of Indra, Sakra, Purandara. They have no confidence in the text where the self-standing truth is revealed, since in their study of all things they follow mere words as expressed in the text, trying thereby to gain into the meaning. Thus Mahamati, these deluded ones would declare that as words are so is meaning, that meaning is not otherwise than words. For what reason? Because meaning has no body of its own and cannot be different from words. That the unintelligent declare words to be identical with meaning is due to their ignorance as to the self-nature of words. They do not know, Mahamati, that words are subject to birth and death, whereas meaning is not. Mahamati, words are dependent on letters, but meaning is not. As meaning is freed from existence and non-existence, it is not born, it has no substratum. And Mahamati, the Tathagatas do not teach the doctrine that is dependent upon letters. As to letters, their being nor non-being is not attainable. It is otherwise with the thought that is never dependent on letters. Again, Mahamati, anyone that discourses on a truth that is dependent on letters is a mere prattler, because truth is beyond letters. For this reason, Mahamati, it is declared in the canonical text by myself and other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that not a letter is uttered or answered by the Tathagatas. For what reason? Because truths are not dependent on letters. It is not that they never declare what is in conformity with meaning. When they declare anything, it is according to the discrimination of all beings. If, Mahamati, the truth is not declared in words, the scriptures containing all truths will disappear, and when the scriptures disappear, there will be no Buddhas, Sravakas, Pratyeka-Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, for when there is no one to teach, what is to be taught, and to whom? For this reason, then, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva is not to become attached to the words of the canonical texts. Mahamati, owing to the functioning of the minds of sentient beings, the canonical texts sometimes deviate from their straightforward course. Religious discourses are given by myself and other Tathagatas, Arhats, fully enlightened ones, in response to varieties of faiths on the part of beings, in order to remove them from the bondage of the Shita, Manas, and Manavijnana, and not for the attainment and establishment of self-realization which issues from noble wisdom. When there is the recognition of the fact that all things are characterized with imagelessness, and that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of mind itself, there is the discarding of the dualistic discrimination. Therefore, Mahamati, let the Bodhisattva Mahasattva be in conformity with the meaning and not with the letter. Mahamati, a son or daughter of a good family who conforms himself or herself to the letter, will ruin his or her understanding of ultimate reality and will cause others to fail to recognize the truth. Continuing to cherish wrong views, one's own assertion is confounded by the philosophers who do not understand well what characterizes all the stages of the Dharma, and who have no adequate knowledge as to the interpretation of words. If they well understand what characterizes all the stages of the Dharma and are adequately equipped with the interpretation of words and expressions, and have a good understanding of the meaning and reason of all things, they will properly enjoy by themselves the bliss of formlessness, while others are properly established in the Mahayana. Being properly embraced in the Mahayana, they will, Mahamati, be in the brace of the Buddhas, Sravakas, Pratyeka-Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas. Being embraced by the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Pratyekabuddhas, and Sravakas, they will in turn embrace all beings. Embracing all beings, they will embrace the good Dharma. The good Dharma being embraced, the Buddha seeds will not be destroyed. When the Buddha seeds are not destroyed, the excellent abodes will be attained. When thus these excellent abodes are attained, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas will see to it that all beings, being established in the Mahayana, are born there in the excellent abodes, and fortifying themselves with the tenfold supernatural power, and assuming various forms, they will discourse on the Dharma in conformity to its true nature, tathattva, and with a thorough knowledge of various wishes and characteristics of beings. Now, the true nature of things, tathattva, is characterized by non-differentiation and trueness. It is neither coming nor departing. It puts a stop to all idle reasonings, and it is called the truth, tattvam. Therefore, Mahamati, let son or daughter of a good family take good heed not to get attached to words as being in perfect conformity with meaning, because the truth is not of the letter. Be not like the one who looks at the fingertip. For instance, Mahamati, when a man with his fingertip points at something to somebody, the fingertip may be taken wrongly for the thing pointed at. In like manner, Mahamati, the people belonging to the class of the ignorant and simple-minded, like those of a childish group, are unable even unto their death to abandon the idea that in the fingertip of words there is the meaning itself, and will not grasp ultimate reality, because of their intent clinging to words which are no more than the fingertip to them. To give another illustration, Mahamati, boiled rice is the proper food for infants, to whom suppose somebody gave uncooked food to eat. In this case, this one is to be considered to be out of his sense, because of his not knowing how to properly prepare food. It is with that which is neither so it is with that which is neither born nor destroyed, Mahamati. It will not manifest itself to anybody unless he is well disciplined in it. Therefore you should most assuredly discipline yourself in this, and not be like the one who, grasping his own fingertip, sees the meaning there. For this reason, Mahamati, you should energetically discipline yourself to get at the meaning itself. Mahamati, the meaning is alone with itself, vivikta, and is the cause of nirvana. Words are bound up with discrimination and are the carrier of transmigration. Meaning, Mahamati, is attained from much learning, and this much learning, Mahamati, means to be conversant with meaning and not with words. To be conversant with meaning means to ascertain the view which is not at all associated with any philosophical school, and which will keep not only yourself but others from falling into the false views. Being so, Mahamati, this is said to be learned in much meaning. Therefore, let seekers for meaning reverently approach those who are much learned in it. But those who are attached to words as being in accord with meaning, they are to be left to themselves and to be shunned by truth seekers. Further, Mahamati, to whom the Buddha's spiritual powers were added, said, there is nothing specially distinguishable in the Buddha's teaching of no birth and no annihilation. Why? Because all the philosophers also declare, Bhagavan, their causes to be unborn and not to be annihilated. And you too, Bhagavan, declare space, apratisamkhya-nirodha, annihilation, and nirvana to be unborn and not to be annihilated. The philosophers declare, Bhagavan, that the world rises from causal agencies and causation, while the Bhagavan too declares that the world takes its rise from ignorance, desire, deed, discrimination, which work in accordance with the law of causation. Both thus refer to causation, the difference being in names only. So with the rise of external objects, both you and they assume external causation. Thus there is no distinction between your teaching, Bhagavan, and that of the philosophers. With them there are 9 substances which are regarded as unborn and not to be annihilated: atoms, supreme souls, pradhana, isvara, creator, prajapati, etc. While, Bhagavan, you assert that all beings are neither born nor annihilated, as their being and non-being is unattainable. Now as the elements are indestructible, their self-nature is neither born nor annihilated. While following various courses of transformation, what constitutes their essential nature is not abandoned. Though your notion of the elements may differ in form, Bhagavan, it is what has been imagined by all the philosophers as well as by yourself. For this reason, this teaching of yours has nothing distinctive. If there is anything distinctive by which the teaching of the Tathagata excels that of the philosophers, pray tell me. Bhagavan, if there is nothing distinctive in your own teaching, we can say that there is something of Buddhahood in the teaching of all the philosophers, because in them there is a cause pointing to no birth and no annihilation. It was declared by the Bhagavan that many Tathagatas are not born simultaneously in the same district in one world. But if the rule of cause and effect with regard to being and non-being holds true, and your teaching leaves nothing contradicting behind, there must be many Tathagatas rising at the same time and in the same locality. The Bhagavan said, Mahamati, my teaching of no birth and no annihilation is not like that of the philosophers who also speak of no birth and no annihilation, nor is it like their doctrine of birth and impermanency. Why? Because, Mahamati, that to which the philosophers ascribe the characteristics of no birth and no change is the self-nature of all things. But mine is not that which falls into the dualism of being and non-being. Mine, Mahamati, goes beyond the dualism of being and non-being, has nothing to do with birth, abiding, and destruction, is neither existent nor non-existent. How is it not non-existent? Because multitudinousness of objects is seen as like Maya and a dream. I say that it is not non-existent. How is it not existent? Because there are no characteristic signs to be perceived as belonging to the self-nature of things. They are seen in one sense as individual objects, and not seen as such in another sense. Again, they are something in one sense graspable, and in another sense ungraspable. For this reason, things are existent and non-existent. But when it is understood that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of mind itself, discrimination no more arises, and one is thus established in his own abode, which is the realm of no work. The ignorant work and discriminate, but not the wise. Mahamati, the doings of the ignorant are unrealities discriminated, realities confounded. They are like the city of the Gandharvas, like magically created figures. To illustrate Mahamati, here is a city of the Gandharvas where children see magically created people, merchants and many others going in or coming out, and imagine that they are really people going in and coming out. It is owing to this discrimination characterized by perturbation that such takes place. It is the same, Mahamati, with the ignorant, that they have a confused perception of birth and no birth. There is really nothing made or unmade like the rising of magically created people. For magically created people are neither born nor annihilated, because here is no question whatever as to their existence or non-existence. In like manner, all things have nothing to do with birth and destruction, except that the ignorant, cherishing false ideas, imagine birth and annihilation of objects. It is, however, not so with the wise. By false ideas it is meant that objects are not judged as they are in themselves. They are nothing else. When reality is discriminated other than it is, there is the clinging to the idea that all things have their self-nature, and what is alone by itself is not seen. And when what is alone by itself is not seen, there is no disappearance of discrimination. For this reason, Mahamati, an insight into formlessness excels, and not an insight into form. As form causes another birth, it excels not. By formlessness, Mahamati, is meant the disappearance of discrimination. No birth and no annihilation, this I call nirvana. By nirvana, Mahamati, is meant the looking into the abode of reality as it really is in itself. And when, along with the turning back of the entire system of mentation, Shita, Kaita, Kalapa, there is the attainment of self-realization by means of noble wisdom, which belongs to the Tathagatas. I call it nirvana. So it is said, in order to remove the notion of birth and to accomplish that of no birth, I teach the doctrine of no cause, but this is not understood by the ignorant. This all is unborn, but that does not mean that there are no objects. They are seen to be like the city of the Gandharvas, a dream and Maya. Objects are here, but causeless. Tell me how things are unborn without self-nature and empty. When things are seen by transcendental knowledge, they are not subject to combination and are unobtainable. Therefore I declare that they are empty, unborn, and without self-nature. Considered one by one, combination is there. The world appears to exist, but nothing is really existing. It is not as it is conceived by the philosophers. When combination is dissolved, nothing is left to be seen. As is a dream, a hairnet, Maya, the city of the Gandharvas, and a mirage, which rise into view causelessly, so is the multitudinousness of the world. By keeping down the theory of no causation, no birth is demonstrated. When the theory of no birth is declared, my law eye is never destroyed. When the theory of no cause is pointed out, the philosophers are horrified. Mahamati asked, how, by whom, where, and wherefore does the theory of no cause make its appearance? The Bhagavan answered, when things, samskrita, are perceived as neither subject to causation nor above it, then the view maintained by the philosophers of birth and destruction is done away with. Mahamati asked, is non-being no birth, or does it look for causation? Is it a being's name without a corresponding reality? Pray tell me. The Bhagavan answered, non-being is not no birth, nor does it look for causation, nor is it a being's name, nor is it a name without a corresponding object. Here is a reality which does not belong to the Sravakas, Pratyakabuddhas, nor to the philosophers. Neither does it belong to the bodhisattvas who have entered upon the seventh stage. This is what characterizes no birth. The doing away with the notion of cause and condition, the giving up of a causal agency, the establishment of mind only, this I state to be no birth. The getting rid of the idea that things are caused, the removal of the dualism imagined and imagining, the being liberated from the alternatives of being and non-being, this I state to be no birth. The mind liberated from its objective world, the getting rid of the twofold svabhava, parikalpita and paratantra, a turning up at the seat of mentation, this I state to be no birth. The no eternal existence, no non-existence, not even the grasping of mind. Things are like a dream, a hairnet, Maya, the city of Gandharvas, a mirage. The abandonment of all philosophical views, this is what characterizes no birth. Thus too all these words will be understood, that is, emptiness, having no self-nature, and etc. The world is empty, not indeed because of its being empty, but because of its being empty in the sense of being unborn. A system of mentality may have its rise and fall owing to causation. When there is a dissolution of the system, there is neither birth nor annihilation. When a dissolution somewhere takes place among the members of the system, such existence ceases as is discriminated by the philosophers by means of such categories as oneness and separateness. Nothing is born, being is not, non-being is not, nowhere is being and non-being, except that where there is a system, there is a rising of things and their dissolution. It is only in accordance with general convention that a chain of mutual dependence is talked of. Birth has no sense when the chain of dependence is severed. As there is nothing generating, there is no birth, free from the faults of the philosophers. I talk of this conventionally, according to the theory of concatenation, and this is not intelligible to the ignorant. If there is anything born somewhere apart from concatenation, here is one who is to be recognized as an advocate of no causation, as he destroys concatenation. If concatenation works from outside like a lamp revealing all kinds of things, this means the presence of something outside concatenation itself. All things are devoid of self-nature, have never been born, and in their original nature are like the sky. Things separated from concatenation belong to the discrimination of the ignorant. There is another kind of no birth, which is the self-essence of things realized by the wise. Its birth is no birth, and in this no birth there is a recognition. When this entire world is regarded as concatenation, as nothing else but concatenation, then the mind gains tranquility. Ignorance, desire, karma, etc., these are the inner concatenation. A ladle, clay, a vessel, a wheel, etc., or seeds, the elements, etc. These are external concatenations. If there is any other existence born of concatenation, this goes against the law of concatenation. Those who hold this view are not established in the principles of correct reasoning. If there is an object coming to exist and yet is non-existent, by what law of causation is there the recognition of it? Things here are of mutual origination, and for this reason causation is declared. Heat, fluidity, motility, solidity, such notions are discriminated by the ignorant. There is a system of relations, no individual objects exist. hence the denial of self-nature as constituting the realness of objects. The physician varies his treatment according to diseases, though there is no difference in the principle of healing. The difference comes from varieties of diseases. In like manner, in order to save generations of beings from their disease of passions with which they are ill, I teach people with my doctrines, knowing the power of their senses. My doctrine does not vary, but the passions and powers are differentiated. There is just one vehicle. Auspicious is the Eightfold Path. At that time again, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said this to the Bhagavan: Impermanence, impermanence. This is the discrimination of the philosophers, Bhagavan, and you too declare in the canonical texts that all composite things are impermanent. To be subject to birth and destruction is the nature of things. But, Bhagavan, is this right or wrong? And how many kinds of impermanency are there, Bhagavan? Said the Bhagavan, Mahamati, there are 8 kinds of impermanency as discriminated by the philosophers, but not by me. What are the 8 kinds? Some say that there is origination, then cessation. This is impermanency, that is to say, Mahamati, in the beginning there is something born which ceases to exist. This is impermanency. Some explain impermanency as the changing of shape. 3. Some say form itself is impermanent. 4. Some regard impermanency to consist in the changing of form, rupa, saying that in a continuous, uninterrupted existence of all things there takes place a change in their natural flavor. For instance, milk going through a transformation turns into sour milk, and that such an invisible decomposition happens to all things. This is called impermanency. Some imagine that there is an objective existence, bhava, which is called impermanency. 6. Some imagine existence and non-existence. This is impermanency. 7. Some say that not being born is impermanency, because of all things being impermanent, and because of impermanency being inherent in them. Now, Mahamati, by impermanency that exists in existence and non-existence is meant that things made of the elements are by nature subject to destruction, and have nothing in them one can take hold of, while the elements themselves are never set in motion. By impermanency that is no birth is meant that there is neither permanency nor impermanency, that in all things there is no dualistic evolution of being and non-being, and that nothing is seen to exist, even when they are examined into the last atom. This not seeing of anything is another name for no birth, and not for birth. This, Mahamati, is the nature of impermanency that is no birth, and as this is not understood, all the philosophers cherish the view of impermanency that is based on birth. Further, Mahamati, by the conception of impermanency as objective existence is meant that there is a discrimination in the philosopher's own mind as to that which is not permanent and that which is not impermanent. What is the sense of this? It means that there is a thing called impermanency which is in itself not subject to destruction, but by whose working there is a disappearance of all things. And if not for impermanency, there will be no disappearance of all things. It is like a stick or a stone, or like a hammer breaking other things to pieces, while itself remains unbroken. This is the philosopher's meaning, but as we actually see things about us, there is no such mutual differentiation which compels us to say that here is impermanency, the cause, and there is the disappearance of all things as the effect. There is no such differentiation of cause and effect, and we cannot say, here is the impermanency as cause, and there is the effect. When there is thus no differentiation of cause and effect, all things are permanent, since no cause exists to render them otherwise. Mahamati, as to the disappearance of all things, there is a cause, but it is not in the understanding of the ignorant and simple-minded. When the cause is of a dissimilar nature, the same effect is not produced. In case it does, the impermanency of all things is an example of dissimilar effect, and there is no distinction between cause and effect, but the distinction between cause and effect is observed in them. If there is an objective existence to be known as impermanence, it will be characterized with the nature of an effect-producing cause, and there will be one entity contained in all things. When the notion is cherished of a cause-producing effect, This means that impermanence, the cause, is impermanent because it partakes of the nature of the effect, which is impermanent. All things then are to be regarded as impermanent, all things then are not to be regarded as impermanent, but as permanent. If impermanency is the cause, resides within all things, it will come under the three divisions of time. It passes away together with things past. Its future is not yet here, as things of the future are still unborn. In the present it breaks up, together with things of the present. Form or matter results from the combination and variation of the elements. As the primary elements and the secondary elements are neither different nor not different, they are by nature not subject to destruction, and because, according to the philosophers, the elements are indestructible. But Mahamati, it is an established fact that the entire triple world with its elements, primary and secondary, is born, abides, and disappears. How do the philosophers conceive a separate existence of impermanency, which is independent of the elements, primary and secondary, while the elements themselves are neither set in motion nor destroyed, because they cling to the notion of self-nature as eternally unchangeable? The conception of impermanency as existing in the first origination which ceases to continue is not tenable for three reasons. The elements cannot produce one another because each has its self-nature different from the others. Each individual one cannot produce itself because there is no differentiation in it. The mutually separated origination of the elements is impossible because there is no correspondence between the two. Hence the conclusion that the conception of origination impermanency is untenable. By the conception of impermanency in consideration of changes taking place in external form is meant that the elements primary and secondary are not subject to dissolution. What is known as dissolution, Mahamati, even when closely examined until atoms are reached, is not the destruction of the elements primary and secondary, but of their external forms, whereby the elements assume different appearances as short or long, but in fact nothing is destroyed in the elemental atoms. What is seen as ceased to exist is the external formation of the elements. This view is cherished by the Samkhya school. By the impermanency of external shapes is meant the impermanency of form, rupa. What is impermanent is thus the external shape and not the elements. If the elements themselves are impermanent, all our other everyday experiences come to naught. This is cherishing the view of the Lokayatita, according to which all things are reducible to mere words because their self-nature is never seen as born. By the impermanency of changes is meant the changing of forms, rupa, and not the changing of the elements themselves as seen in various ornamental articles of gold, which assume various forms. While there is no disappearance in the nature of gold, the ornamental articles variously change in form. These and other views of impermanency as changes are discriminated variously by the philosophers as is here described. Fire may burn all the elements, but their self-nature can never be burned. When each goes asunder by itself, there is the destruction of what constitutes the elements, primary and secondary. However, Mahamati, I am neither for nor permanency nor for impermanency. Why? For these reasons. External objects are not admitted. The triple world is taught as not being anything else but the mind itself. Multiplicities of external existences are not accepted. There is no rising of the elements, nor their disappearance, nor their continuation, nor their differentiation. There are no such things as the elements primary and secondary. Because of discrimination, there evolve the dualistic indications of perceived and perceiving. When it is recognized that because of discrimination there is a duality, the discussion concerning the existence and non-existence of the external world ceases because mind only is understood. Discrimination rises from discriminating, a world of effect producing works. No discrimination takes place when the world is not recognized. Then a man ceases to cherish the discrimination of existence and non-existence which rises out of his own mind. He sees that things, either of this world or of the higher world, or of the highest, are not to be described as permanent or impermanent, because he does not understand the truth that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of mind itself. As the meaning of discrimination is not understood by all the philosophers who have fallen into wrong ideas of dualism and who are people of no spiritual attainment, impermanency comes up to them as a subject for discussion. Mahamati, the triple aspect of all things, as distinguished as of this world, of a higher world, and of the highest, is the outcome of word discrimination, but this is not understood by the ignorant and simple-minded, so it is said. By the deluded philosophers, the notion of impermanency is discriminated as origination, cessation, as transformation of external forms, as an independent existence, as form. There is no destruction of things. The elements abide forever as regards their self-essence. Immersed in varieties of views, the philosophers discriminate impermanency. To these philosophers there is no destruction, no birth. The elements are permanent as regards their self-essence. Whoever discriminates impermanency, this is the position of the philosophers. According to the Buddha, there is nothing in the world but the mind itself, and all that is of duality has its rise from the mind, and is seen as perceived and perceiving, an ego-soul in what belongs to it. They exist not. The abode and realm of Brahma, etc., I declare all to be of mind only, outside mind only, Brahma, etc., are not attainable. End of chapter 3.